Dan Dowdy, the host of the Built for the Trades podcast. Today, we are recapping our interview, or the interview that we did with Rachel Betterbid, the VP of Digital Marketing from Coalmarch. We are going to pull out the emotional capacity and leadership. And I have my co-worker and also co-host today, Nathan Glass, marketing manager here at Built for the Trades. So welcome to the show, Nathan.
Thanks. Yeah, happy to be here. This is a topic I'm really passionate about, so excited to get into it.
So I'm sure all the guys listening are like, emotional capacity and leadership. Okay, I'm turning this off. You know what I mean?
Don't turn it off.
And then their spouses or they're probably like, hey, you should listen to this topic, emotional capacity and leadership.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to diving into this. In these recaps, we just, when I listen back to the interview, I'll pull out one word or phrase, something that really stands out. And I thought, we haven't talked a whole lot about emotional capacity and leadership and what that looks like. So I am looking forward to talking about that. And before we dive in, I just want to remind everybody listening out there that our focus is to grow this podcast organically. And so if you could just subscribe, share this with a friend, somebody that would gain value in growing their leadership. And that would be awesome. So I'm going to start with the definition of emotional capacity. So emotional capacity is a measure of your ability to overcome limiting beliefs, your ease in adapting to challenging situations, and the quality of your relationships. No matter how talented, disciplined, or values-driven you are, if you don't have high emotional capacity, you'll fall short of your goals eventually. So let's dive in. Let's dive in, Nathan. Well, I'd like to just start with overcoming limiting beliefs and your thoughts behind that.
Yeah, man, there's a lot packed into that statement. So overcoming limiting beliefs, the first thing I think is, limiting beliefs, right? So if you have a belief that something can't be done, then you will never even attempt to try it, right? That's why a limiting belief is such a powerful thing. It's like this cap, this ceiling that you're never going to go over. So you're never going to achieve anything more than what you believe you can achieve. So that's why it's really important to understand what your limiting beliefs are and start to overcome them. Or I almost think of it as expanding your beliefs. You're not so much like eliminating a belief. You're just shifting your belief, kind of like a thermostat. If your thermostat's set to 70, and you want it to be 80, well, you need to shift that belief, shift that thermostat to 80. So if you want to achieve 80 degrees. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah. So, how do you do that? Right.
Yeah.
We are a product of our upbringing and just how God wired us, but really a lot of it's our upbringing and who we surround ourselves with.
Yeah.
Because, I could be a business owner who believes that, I could only grow a $1 million a year business. That's my belief.
Right.
Sitting next to somebody who thinks they can grow $100 million business. Well, what's the difference? Well, probably the other person's a little more crazy than I am, first and foremost. But really, it's just limiting beliefs. It's right. Believing that, I don't have to know how I'm going to get there. I just know that I just need to know that I can get there, and I'm willing to put the work in. And when you start to surround yourself with people who believe and talk like that, you really start to add more energy because it comes to that. Surrounding yourself with the right people who give you energy, and also just turning off any kind of negative information coming into your life and start listening to podcasts and books and things that really help to build your knowledge.
And what that's doing, a good analogy I've heard is like your beliefs are like legs of a table. So if you want to take down that table, right, you have to attack each leg of the table until the table falls, right? So it's the same with beliefs. You have a bunch of ideas that are supporting your belief that like I'm only a 1 million in revenue business, right? So you need to start, and that's what Dan's saying, like by filling yourself and surrounding yourself with ideas and people that believe that they can achieve a 10 million or $100 million business. You're going to start attacking those legs. You're going to start attacking those ideas that support the belief that you have that you're only a million. So that's how you can, kind of the practical part of overcoming limiting beliefs is identifying what your beliefs are, and then start attacking the ideas, the quote unquote facts that you think support that belief, and replace those legs with legs that support $100 million business. I don't know if that makes sense. So you're swapping out, you're attacking the ideas that support your belief about something, and you're replacing them with something else. And that's what Dan's talking about. And you do that practically by first understanding what you believe, and then filling yourself with better beliefs, with better ideas.
Yeah, I'm thinking through that, and yeah, I mean, really, there's so many factors that come into play when you think about what's supporting that belief in your life, and going back to the people you surround yourself with. If you have somebody there who believes in you more than you believe in yourself, then obviously that can help to lift you, right? But one of those legs of why that is because you're surrounding yourself with somebody
That's right.
has limiting beliefs, right?
Yep.
Or doesn't encourage you.
Yep.
So that's really good to think about that. You can really start to break that down and really start to overcome that and replace that with something bigger and better to help you grow in your leadership. The next thing is adapting to challenging situations. When I was reading this and thinking about this podcast, I thought, when it comes to emotional capacity, the first thing that comes to mind is just reacting versus responding. And if I'm adapting to a challenging situation and somebody catches me off guard and confronts me, my normal emotional capacity is going to be able to attack back and react and maybe yell and lose my cool a little bit, right?
Get defensive.
That's probably that could be my emotional capacity in leadership. Well, what is that doing? That's not only driving a wedge between you and that person, but that's running people off. That's running good people off in your business, and you're attracting more people who are just, at the end of the day, everybody's just yelling and cussing at each other, and nobody wants to be around an environment like that. I say nobody. There's probably somebody listening who's like, I love that. Yeah. So reacting versus responding. When I say that, Nathan, what comes to mind?
Yeah. So I think of it like, someone who doesn't have a lot of emotional capacity, which, used to be me, you react. So what is that? So a situation happens, right? And you're first, inside of you, you are feeling angry, you're feeling hurt, you're feeling frustrated, right? And then you take an action based off of, with those emotions sitting inside of you. You don't think, you don't slow down, you just react, right? You just take an action immediately out of those emotions. Okay, so that's what someone with not a lot of emotional capacity would do. Someone with emotional capacity, same situation, same initial emotions, right? You feel angry, you feel frustrated, but the difference is you pause, you're patient with yourself, and you start thinking. You recognize that you're having these negative emotions. You start asking yourself questions that will help you shift from, okay, what don't I know about this situation, right? Like, what do I need to know? What are the benefits of this situation? What are the positives here? You can ask questions to shift you into a positive emotion, or just simply time, just pausing, not reacting, not taking an action yet. But internally, I'm kind of talking about the internal situation. And this might happen in 5 seconds, or it might take 50 minutes. It all depends. But the point is, someone with emotional capacity is going to sit with those negative emotions, and they're not going to take an action until they've shifted out of those negative emotions, they've turned them into something positive, or they've just let them dissipate. And then instead of reacting, they respond, meaning they take an action that's going to move them forward in a positive direction. And that's the point at which they take an action. So that's what someone with emotional capacity would do. And really, a lot of the difference is simply that ability to pause yourself, to not just instantly take an action or say something, but simply just sit tight, be patient with it, and let some time pass, shift into something positive, then take a positive action. So that's kind of the difference between someone without emotional capacity and someone with emotional capacity in terms of how you respond to situations.
Okay. Yeah, and I see it too as, somebody who's very reactionary versus somebody who's not very reactionary. You could be on one end of the scale or the other. It's just sliding more towards the middle. If you're very reactionary, like you said, you may pause for just a few minutes, and be able to respond properly once you see the other perspective, and you really think about how to reframe that. And then if you're the opposite and you tend to avoid responding, period,
sure,
then you also need to slide over. Right. That was a big part of my leadership for a lot of years, was if I got upset about something and I let time pass, I would just naturally talk myself out of being upset about it. So by the time if I waited to the next day to address the situation with a fellow team member, then normally it's all dissipated, right? Because I've had time to think about it, let it go, and it's not always a good thing.
Sure.
Sometimes it is, right? Because you've thought about it, you're responding to it, but sometimes it doesn't carry enough weight. So for me in my leadership for a lot of years, I had to be more I want to call it reactive, but I responded quicker.
Sure.
So if I knew that there was something that needed to be addressed, my goal typically was to address it same day.
Yeah.
But that's just my personality, right? People listening out there could be completely different than that. So shifting on, we've talked about a little bit about quality of the relationships, but John Maxwell's got a great quote here. He says, the emotion that you continually feed is the emotion that will dominate your life. What comes to mind whenever you hear that quote, Nathan?
Yeah, it's kind of going back to what you were saying a minute ago, like whatever you're feeding yourself, whether that's through the people around you, the books, the shows you watching the news, all of that is giving you some emotion, right? Yeah. Music obviously is very emotional, is giving you some emotion. The news is filled with fear, right? That's why I would highly recommend limiting the amount of news you watch, because it is only negative. And you honestly don't need most of it, right? 2 minutes of news is generally enough for everybody. But yeah, all those things are feeding your emotion, just like, it's feeding you information and ideas and everything else. It's also feeding you emotion. So if you're continually fed with negative stuff, well, you're going to be negative. Mm-hmm. It's just a natural reaction to that environment. So yeah, the big trick here is just change your environment, change all the things around you. What are you listening to? Who are you with? All of that.
Yeah. And another thing that comes to mind when I think about the emotion that you continually feed, if I'm angry about something that's happening in my life, I could go to somebody who shares that same anger towards that same specific topic, right? And now I'm surrounding myself with that person, and all I'm doing is fueling the fire for that anger towards whatever that situation is, right? Yeah, so
that's right.
It's also good to have a diversity of opinions, and be able to hear those things and respect other people's opinions as you're navigating through your leadership. So I wanted to share the audience just 5 steps that they can take away, really leaving today's podcast to grow in their emotional capacity. And number 1 was, it's a really good one. Like, think about where you're at in your leadership capacity, like where you're at currently. And the way you do that is you just think about what it is you've achieved to date. Whether that's, it's your family life, you're managing a department, or or you're owning a company and leading a company, whatever it is. Like, think about what you've achieved to date, and then think about why it is that you want to grow. Because as you take on these next 4 steps, there's going to be times where you're going to be like, you know what, I liked the old person I was before. It was so much more comfortable. I don't know that I really want to grow in this emotional capacity stuff, because that person that I'm just going to respond to, they're really an idiot, and I really don't respect them, and I don't want to deal with it, and I'd rather just get rid of them. You're going to fall back to that, but you got to realize that that's not going to help you grow to where it is you want to go.
Yeah, and we were talking about this before we started rolling, but I see in the same way that, wherever you want to take your business, at each level of your business, just like you need, each level of your business requires, maybe more trucks, more people, more equipment, kind of the physical, tangible things. It's also going to require a different level of emotional capacity. As your business gets bigger and bigger, you're going to have bigger and bigger challenges, and those challenges are going to require a different level of emotional capacity for you. Mm-hmm. So they really just go hand in hand with growth of the business, growth of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, it's the definition of insanity, right?
That's right.
So yeah, number 1, determine why it is you want to grow, because you're going to have to fall back on that as you get out of your comfort zone and you start to grow. But number 2 is evaluate and upgrade your peers if necessary. Do they make me better? Do they challenge me? Do they encourage me? Are they my biggest cheerleaders? They're willing to tell me things that other people aren't willing to tell me. Right. So that's number 2.
Yeah. If you have people around you that don't believe that you can achieve what you're trying to achieve, then they're going to constantly be tacking you and dragging you down. Well, as you probably already know, right? Like, achieving your dreams and your goals is hard enough. You don't need people around you dragging you down. So yeah, that's a hard one. But, most successful people as they move to different levels, end up needing to change their peer group at each level, because their peer group often is not growing at the same rate and dealing with the same challenges as you are. So, just know that that's normal. That's a normal part of the process of moving up, is that often, your peer group is going to change too, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think about the old wisdom, misery loves company, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So if you have those people in your life, you need to evaluate, upgrade,
That's right.
edit that area of your life. All right, number 3, edit what you take into your mind. Change out negative information with growth focused books and podcasts. I think about that. I think about, it could be a radio show that you listen to. It could be a television series you're watching. It could be movies you're watching. It could be so many different things. But yeah, I mean, the most successful people that I know invest in intentionally listening to podcasts, intentionally listening or reading books, and really applying what it is they're learning.
Yeah, I think that the practical step here is just like, the next time you're listening to something, ask yourself, how does this make me feel? And does this serve me? Is this helping me achieve my goal, right? Or the next time you watch a TV show or listen to the news or whatever it is, right? Or a person you're around, just ask yourself, like, do I feel better after that interaction? And do I feel more encouraged? And if not, then drop it. Find something better.
That's good. I guess that means we can't watch the news at all anymore.
Pretty much.
All right, number 4 here. Upgrade your words. Replace "I want to do this" with "I will do this," or "I think this will work" with "this will work," or "I want to try this" with "I will do this." Like those little transitions in upgrading your words. "I want to try this" really is telling me that, hey, you're thinking about doing it, but you're not really going to do anything about it.
Yeah.
With "I will do this." I am going to do this, right? I am going to put my effort into this journey of growth. So that's what comes to mind when I think about upgrading your words. Anything else come to mind for you, Nathan, when you think about upgrading your words?
Yeah, it's a big one, right? Because your words really are a reflection of your thoughts, of your belief system. So when you start paying attention to your words, you're really starting to tune into what you actually believe. And a lot of us have stories in our heads for what we think we believe. But so starting to listen to your words and tune into those and then upgrade them can be extremely powerful. And I kind of think of it as integrity too. If you really want to take the idea of integrity to its extreme, really, saying something and not doing it is not integrity, right? So true integrity would be whatever you say, you think, and you do, right? All those things are in alignment. So if you're constantly saying something and not following through, or someday I'll do this, someday I'll do that, you are basically not being true to yourself. You're not being true to yourself, and eventually, so what you're doing is you're degrading your willpower and your strength and your ability to go out and accomplish big goals. So when I first started through this process, the first thing I did was started to listen to my words, and I realized how negative they were. And my next step was to stop talking so much, because I realized how much was negative. Yeah. And until I could start to have positive thoughts and positive words, I just stopped speaking as much. And maybe you need to go through a period of that, and that's okay. It's worth it to begin to upgrade your mind and your words to align with what you really want to achieve.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I also think about, when you're not only upgrading your words and your confidence, but also the people that you're leading, upgrading your words to them and believing in them and believing that they can overcome whatever challenge they are facing is huge. So, not only applying this to your own life, but also the people that you lead, uplifting them and believing in them more than they believe in themselves is important.
Yeah, I think of it like if you, whatever level that you believe something, you're going to be able to impart that kind of level of belief in that at maybe, 50% or 25% to someone else, if that makes sense, right? So if you don't really believe in something, your chance of getting someone else to believe that and your team to believe that is going to be very minimal. If you barely believe in something, you're like, yeah, you should probably do that. Well, they're gonna feel that, and they're gonna take a very small percentage of that belief with them, right? So that it's not gonna amount to anything. So in other words, like you need to have a really high level of belief in something if you want any amount of that to transfer to your team.
Yeah, it's influence.
That's right.
All right. So number 5, take action, start small. Repetitive action every time trumps big action that is short-lived. So yeah, you listen to a podcast like this, you take these 5 steps, you think, oh, I'm going to do all this. Like I'm going to start listening. I'm going to read 20 books this month, and I'm going to listen to 1,500 podcasts, and I'm going to close all my bad friends out of my life instantly. Yep. Like, all these things are going to help you grow in your emotional capacity and your leadership. But what I'm asking you to do is figure out what it is you can do repetitive, consistently over time, and just start small. Maybe it's that, your goal is to get to where you can read 20 books a month. That's kind of crazy, but maybe somebody wants to do that, right? But just start with one. If you're not doing one, start with one.
That's right.
Do that over time and really start to apply that to your life. And you're going to see a lot more return on your investment versus trying to do it all at once, and then realizing that you don't have the capacity to do everything at once.
That's right. Yeah. Really what you want is for these to become new habits. So, start changing one habit at a time. And then over the months and years, like those will stack up and you'll have big wins.
Cool. Number 1, think about where you're at in your leadership capacity. Why do you want to grow? Number 2, evaluate your peers, upgrade if necessary. Number 3, edit what you take into your mind. Number 4, upgrade your words. Number 5, take action, but start small. Repetitive tasks over time is going to always trump trying to do everything at once and it not being sustainable. So, here are both of the trades. When it comes to surrounding yourself with peers that support you and encourage you, I can't help but to not talk about our mastermind groups here.
Yeah, that's really, one of the big reasons why we love the mastermind. It is a group of peers that are all working on upgrading their mindset, improving their emotional capacity. And by surrounding yourself with those kind of people, you're going to go along with that journey and get that level of improvement and upgrading that your peers are getting.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you're interested in checking out our mastermind groups, you just go to builtfortrades.com and you can apply there to come check it out, be a part of it, be a part of the community. But once again, in closing, this podcast is all about growing, developing leaders out there in the trades. And so if you like what you hear, please subscribe and also leave us a review because it helps drive our organic growth over time. So Nathan, anything else in closing?
Yeah, we love reading your reviews. Thanks for listening.